now, we have the Obama Prize. In April 2013, word started going missing from text messages. It was happening in Apple's iMessage when users text certain phrases and the last word would be deleted, leaving just a weird space behind. It only happened with the phrases, "I could be the next Obama," and also the phrase, "The best prize is a surprise." Now, if you sent those texts with spaces after those last words, the words Obama and surprise would mysteriously disappear. Nobody could figure out why, and Apple refused to comment. This left some people thinking that the missing words were clues left behind by some hacker or Apple employee, and that there was some full message yet to be decoded. Next up at number 2 now, we have Grandma. In October 2014, Sherry Emerson got a text from her grandma. The only problem was, she was already dead. They had buried the phone with their grandmother when she died because she loved to text people. Sherry sent a few messages to her as part of her grieving process, never expecting a reply, so she was more than shocked when she got a text that said, "I'm watching over you. You'll get through this. You'll be alright." Similar texts came through and Sherry started freaking out that maybe she was still alive or that someone had dug up her phone from that grave. Eventually, the phone company came forward and said there had been a glitch in their system. Sherry had asked them to remove the number from the system before, and they said they did, but somehow it still went live again. What do you guys think? Tech mistake or message from beyond? Moving on to number 1 now, we have bowling. One Reddit user said they went bowling with their family one night and wanted to post a picture of the empty lane to Instagram. When they went to post it though, they noticed it had changed. The picture was still of the bowling lane, except they were now in it. It was a view of them from behind, about to bowl. After a few seconds, the picture switched back to the original. They said they were seriously freaked out and are sure that no one else could have taken the picture because it was in their pocket and hands the entire time. They begged other Reddit users for a rational explanation, but nobody could offer one. Well, that was creepy. I'd love to hear your thoughts or even explanation on those because most of them still don't have a good answer to this day. Have you guys ever
People be doing stuff through your phone? All right, anyway. All right, let's see this one.
Thinking about starting to run on the treadmill again. I need to drop my belly fat.
Yeah, no, that's total BS.
I think I'm going to start cutting carbs.
Also, total BS.
Okay.
What am I supposed to do then?
So a glitch in the matrix is when you see or encounter something weird and out of place. These glitches come from, but are not limited to, lighting illusions, out-of-place objects, duplications, implausible looking scenarios, and broken textures. Long story short, when something really weird or irregular is noticed, we call this a glitch in the matrix. How about a cloud over a mountain that refuses to leave its placement? Or streaming water? Waves of water mysteriously disappearing into black sand. Sometimes, humans react identically in every motion.
What?
Don't even get me started about sports. Golfers carrying the same momentum. Sometimes these are so strange. Golfers carrying the same momentum. Sometimes these are so strange you have to ask if the
What?
Sometimes these are so strange you have to ask. Sometimes these are so strange you have to ask if the footage is being played backwards.
That would have to be in reverse.
What about finding a near identical copy of yourself at a wedding? Have you ever seen a bird hovering in place?
Hey, welcome to another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man, that was cool. I enjoyed looking at that just now. Yeah, that made me smile. So, go back to the DGTA YouTube page, look at the playlist, and you'll see all of the different versions, let's just say, of the show that have been broadcast throughout time. All right, yeah. Oh man, Instagram, y'all gonna be short today. because I ain't ending to go back just to go vertical. We just gonna run it like that. If you can't see, turn your phone to the side. All right, welcome to another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. I said that. This is Healthy Mental Thursday, and today we are discovering awareness. All right, I think we need it. I think it's useful. I think we should talk about it. So let's get the motivation in here for the day. Motivation for the day, and we'll go from there. I finally fixed that audio glitch that we was having, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check, though. Your host, Dan F. Man. I said that. This is Healthy Mental Yeah, I fixed it. Yeah, I fixed that audio glitch, so hold on, King. I'll let you out of here. In the story of the Exodus, God rescues his people out of slavery. Let's work. To bring them into a new... Hold on, y'all. Let me turn it up for y'all. And get y'all over the big screen.
In the story of the Exodus, God rescues his people out of slavery to bring them into a new home, a distant garden land full of abundance.
But God didn't take Israel directly there. Instead, God leads Israel the long way through a harsh, dry wilderness.
But why? What's the reason for taking them through the desert?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Hold on, y'all. Why does my screen look like this? Hold up. Y'all got something blocking y'all. Hold on. There we go.
Explore the biblical theme of the wilderness. So here's something interesting. The story of the Bible begins in a lifeless, empty wilderness. But then, God's life causes a spring of water to flow up out of the dry ground.
From that fountain, God plants a garden.
A garden full of God's own life. And then, outside the garden, God forms the human from the dust of the wilderness.
And God places humanity in the garden.
Right, so they can be connected to God's life. However, to stay close to God's life,
I know, right?
humans
Anita
need
67,
to
thank
learn
you.
How to succeed in the
Thank you
garden,
for all your support.
Which we're told means listening to
It's
God's
good to be
voice.
back.
But there's another
Don't
voice
forget to use your
in the
channel
garden.
points.
Yes, the voice of a deceiver, saying, God cannot be trusted. In fact, God is holding out on you. You could have life on your own terms.
And the humans listen to that voice.
And as a result, they end up out in the wilderness.
So the wilderness represents the tragedy of being disconnected from God's life.
Right. Now, throughout the Bible, different characters end up in the wilderness for different reasons. Sometimes it's a result of their own decisions.
Like when Moses murders an Egyptian, and then he has to flee into the wilderness.
But the wilderness can also be the result of other people's bad decisions, like Hagar. She's abused and so escapes into the wilderness. But in both stories, God comes to meet them in the wilderness and provide for their needs.
God meets Hagar at a well and promises a blessing for her family that will last through generations.
And God meets Moses in the wilderness and prepares him to lead his people out of slavery.
Okay, so we're back to our first question. When Moses leads Israel out of slavery, why take them through the wilderness instead of straight to the land of promise?
Well, Israel had not yet learned to trust God with their very lives. And so God led them into the wilderness for a time of preparation.
Preparation?
Well, the wilderness is really harsh, but God went alongside them, providing what they needed, just enough for each day.
Why so little?
Well, God was teaching them to trust that he would show up for them every day. He's training them to listen to his instruction and stay connected to his life.
So the key to surviving in the wilderness is the same key to succeed in the garden.
Yes, the wilderness can be a place to practice being garden people.
Okay, but the intensity of the wilderness was too much for Israel. Most of them didn't listen to God. Some even wanted to go back into slavery.
And they were left behind in the wilderness. So it was the younger generation, those who were raised in and formed by the wilderness. They had become ready to enter into the garden land.
And when they first entered the land, their trust in God was strong.
But it didn't last. Soon the Israelites begin to imagine that the goodness of the land came from their own wisdom and strength, or as a gift from other gods. They forgot the God who provided everything. And this led to idolatry and violent injustice, and ultimately, they're exiled back into the wilderness.
So the biblical story is pretty pessimistic. Humans fail in the garden, but we also fail in the wilderness.
But God stays committed to his purpose to bring humanity into the garden. And so God meets us in the wilderness again, but this time in a new way. Early in the life of Jesus, he spends 40 days fasting in the wilderness. And there, he replays the wanderings of his people.
He was tempted by the deceiver to stop trusting God and to seize life and power on his own terms.
But where Israel and all humanity failed, Jesus succeeded by trusting his Father and listening to God's voice alone. And then Jesus went around announcing the arrival of God's kingdom and life, giving gifts to people who were in their own kind of wilderness.
Yeah, he was healing people and feeding them, sometimes in an actual wilderness.
And he called people to follow him and to listen to his voice and to share his garden gifts with others. And after his death and resurrection, Jesus went ahead of all of us to open up the way to the future garden land.
But we're not in the land yet. In a sense, we're like Israel now, wandering through the wilderness, which is often harsh and dangerous.
But Jesus promises to be with us, not necessarily giving us what we want.
I'm going to show my Sunday school class this video. Okay, I'm going to save it.
The garden land that God has in store, he invites us to trust and to listen and follow and to practice being garden people in the wilderness.
Yeah, I went ahead and saved it. Just in case you can't find it, here is the, hold on, let me blank it out so you can see the title. Blank myself out real quick. Bloop. This may change how we think about struggles in life, and it's the Bible Project channel on YouTube. As soon as they see you go to YouTube, they're gonna be like, oh, they're gonna love it. All right, so let's get it right. All right, so today we just want to look at a few things about awareness to help us get to a healthy mental state. All right, because right now at this point, if you are, I would say, oh, excuse me. Appreciate you, Zanita 67. I would say if you are 30 and above, you've been here long enough to have your own way of doing things. And that, to me, I discovered is the most important way of doing things. Now, you can't have 8 billion people doing 8 billion things. Of course not. But that's where this beautiful, lovely society and system that we have been nurturing and taking care of this whole entire time in our lives comes into play. We've been experiencing, let's just call it, see, y'all, everybody be tripping, but let's just call it culture. We've been experiencing culture for all my life at least. But they'll tell you to stay away from a cult or cult leaders and cult shit. But we love the culture. So now that y'all done heard me say that, and it's an exclusive amount of people in here, you can start to diverge away from all that cult yourself and start to formulate a basis of thinking for yourself. Now, like I said, this is where our beautiful systems have come into play. Now, let me give you an example of what I'm saying. Somebody who work at Sonic, they don't really care if Sonic loses money, unless Sonic talking about not paying them. Right? Boom. There you go. That's the middle ground. All right. Now, let's say for every burger they sell, sandwich they make, or something, there's some incentive for them to actually make good quality work, do good quality work, right? Like they making some money off of it from Sonic. then yeah, you're going to see a little bit more motivation there. And I think that's the middle ground for everything that's changing right now. Hold on, y'all. There we go. I think that's the middle ground for everything that's changing right now, is that there's going to be and needs to be an incentive, and is moving towards there being an incentive for you to get up and get your ass out there every day and make it happen. You know, if you don't see the incentive, and that's where we're going to go back to discovering awareness, because if you don't see the incentive for yourself, then you know what I'm saying? And everybody has an incentive, whether it is you just want to chill and be to yourself, if you just want to be able to drink, if you just want to be able to have all of the spinning rims in the world, there's an incentive for you to get up and get at it every day. And that's why I'm speaking specifically to the 30 and older crowd in that message, because we know, and we might have a little bit more bigger. I ain't gonna say bigger. We may be thinking a little bit further than the youth. Hold on. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry. But yeah, we might be thinking a little bit further than the youth. So let's run this, all right? Being aware. We're going to start there. Let's see what Sada got for us. Sada Guru.
Time is not the problem. Money is not the problem. Car is not the problem. Any other technology is not the problem. You got enslaved to it. That is the problem. Enslavement happened because you're unaware. So your unawareness is the problem. So how to become aware? What is this awareness? Awareness is in many different levels. What you are aware of is all that exists for you. This must be understood. Right now you're sitting here, don't turn back and see. Right now there is a huge dinosaur standing behind you. You are not aware of it. Does it exist for you? No. So it doesn't matter, such a huge animal is standing there, you are not aware of it, so it doesn't exist for you. So only what you are aware of exists for you. Right now your awareness is limited to small aspect of your life.
Right, that's what I just said.
Time is not the problem.
It's funny because that's exactly what I just said. So let's get some more of this real quick. Hold on, we on the right path. All right.
So if you have too much self-awareness, it's not that you have too much or too little, it's that it's out of control. And the last thing that you can do is literally train your awareness. And this is through the practice of meditation, but not just some mindfulness. Don't do that when you can. This is where I strongly recommend you do something called a dharana. So a dharana is a focusing technique where you put your awareness on a particular object for as long as you can. And if it wanders away, you bring it back. It can be the breath, it can be looking at something, it can be listening to something, it doesn't really matter. So there's one really good dharana. I don't know if I have a singing bowl in here, but with a singing bowl, we used to do this exercise where you can grab a singing bowl and you ring it, and then you try to pay attention as long as you can and try to detect the sound of a singing bowl until it disappears. And so as it gets quieter and quieter and quieter, you need to harness your awareness more and more and more to be able to detect it. Technically, the sound never stops. It just decays. But your ability to detect it depends on training your awareness. So pattern on a singing bowl. Ring the bowl and just listen. So if you have
look, check this out. Y'all ride with me. Let's do it. What? Yo, that was beautiful. Hold on. I don't know about y'all, but that was beautiful for me. Let's see what the baby do. Yo, let's see it again. wish I knew about that. I wish I knew about that. Lord. Alright. Let's see. Let's go back to the original being aware. Let's keep on running this thing down. Wish I knew about that. Hold on. I don't want to just get nothing generic. Hold up. Alright, let's see what's up. Psych2Go, you know you got it.
Build an app with your name on it.
Psych2Go always got it, so let's go on ahead and do it.
A complete AI creation platform.
Hey Psych2Goers, thank you for all of the love and support that you've given us. Psych2Go's mission is to make psychology and mental health more accessible to everyone. Now, let's begin. Have you ever heard of the term metacognition? It's a higher form of thinking that gives you the ability to be aware of how you think, which is what separates us from other mammal species. Being self-aware by reflecting and evaluating your thoughts and feelings is important to help you understand yourself better and to figure out your strengths and weaknesses. This is why having a lack of self-awareness may lead to unrealistic ideas of your own abilities. So, here are 10 signs you may lack self-awareness. Number 1, you have trouble understanding your emotions. Are you prone to emotional outbursts? Do you find it hard to explain how you feel? The ability to process emotional information and use it for reasoning is called emotional intelligence, and research has shown that it may be linked to self-awareness. In a 2015 study in New Zealand, people who were given self-awareness training saw increases in their emotional intelligence. So if you have trouble describing or processing your feelings, it may be a sign you lack self-awareness. 2, you shut people down when they question your beliefs. Have you cut someone off because they could argue against you? Many people agree to disagree on topics like politics and religion, but refusing to hear someone out may be a sign you lack self-awareness. According to a 2018 study published in Current Biology, people with radical political beliefs had lower levels of metacognition than their non-radical peers. Actively trying to understand people with different views helps you think about why you believe what you do. So, avoiding these conversations to critically reflect on your beliefs may mean that you lack self-awareness. Number 3, you make excuses for your failures. You praise yourself when things go well, but blame others when things go wrong. This is called self-serving bias, which is the habit to credit good things to yourself and blame others for the bad things. People who lack self-awareness struggle to think critically about their strengths and weaknesses, and may find it difficult to tell the difference between their mistakes and things that are out of their control. Number 4, you find it difficult to empathize with others. Is it hard for you to relate to other people? A 2018 study published in the Mindfulness Journal found a connection between higher levels of self-awareness and empathy. Since empathy comes from using your own emotions and experiences to understand others, it may be harder for those who lack the self-awareness to empathize. The study also linked mindfulness practices like observation and non-judging exercises to increased self-awareness and empathy. So, it might be possible to increase your self-awareness through mindfulness exercises. Number 5, you can't explain the reasons for your actions. Do you have trouble explaining your actions? Part of self-awareness is being able to analyze yourself from an outside perspective. Those with lower self-awareness are less likely to think about the reasons behind their actions and feelings compared to those who are more self-aware. If you don't have high levels of self-awareness, it may also be harder for you to find personal meaning in your actions. Number 6, you suppress your emotions. You sometimes feel the need to suppress or hide your emotions. If you lack self-awareness, you may suppress your emotions without ever taking the time to feel and process them. Bottling up your emotions has been linked to serious negative psychological and even physical consequences. It may manifest in increased emotional intensity, stress, or symptoms of depression. Awareness is the first step to finding a healthy outlet for these emotions. 7, it's hard
Oh,
for
I'm
you to make
sorry.
realistic to work on
Sorry,
to
sorry,
accomplish your
sorry.
goals. A study in the European Journal of Personality explored the relationships between self-awareness and the ability to identify obstacles that would prevent you from reaching your goals. People with high self-awareness were able to list more obstacles than those with low self-awareness. Those lacking in self-awareness might not have been able to identify as many obstacles because they overlooked their personal weaknesses. Number 8, you lack a sense of identity. A key part of self-awareness is knowing who you are. Research suggests that people who are more self-aware are more likely to make choices that symbolically represent their identity. Whether it's what they wear or what they post on social media, they actively work to present an image to others that is consistent with their internal identity. This is why a lack of self-awareness may be linked to feelings of uncertainty over your identity. Number 9, you have trouble keeping yourself on task. You keep getting off task due to distracted thoughts. Studies have shown that your mind wanders from your current task much more frequently than you realize. People with high levels of self-awareness are better able to recognize when their minds are wandering and refocus their thoughts on the task at hand. Of course, mental disorders like ADHD can also make it difficult to concentrate, so it's important to consider the other factors as well. Number 10, you struggle with time management and self-control. You have trouble managing your time and making healthy long-term decisions. People with lower levels of self-awareness are more likely to make decisions that help them in the short term, which can
Appreciate
lead to
the likes out there,
procrastination
Jen.
and poor decision-making
Hope you're
skills.
having a great day.
On the other hand, people with greater self-awareness often recognize their tendency to procrastinate and take action to prevent it. If you lack self-awareness, you may blame external factors for preventing you from getting things done, instead of acknowledging your poor time management skills. Do you relate to any of these signs? If so, what do you plan to do next? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, like and share this video with those who might benefit from it. Subscribe to Psych2Go for more content.
Hello?
The references and studies used are added in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yes, ma'am, this is him.
At the door. Nobody has had access to this house.
I wanted to pause right here and talk about how authentic that confusion is. Watch your mother's reaction to everything that's going on. If you've ever encountered something spooky like this or some kind of strange glitch, it really does break your brain in a way that is completely visible to the camera. It's like a stunned disbelief.
Right. Yeah, you cannot.
Let's watch and listen to all the details so you can decide for yourself what really happened.
So this is the first step. Here's my mum leaving my neighbour's house. This is around 3:30. And she doesn't come back until the next morning. So there's nothing on the floor. There's nothing in sight. Specifically at the door, there's nothing left there. So my mum leaves, doesn't come back, and nobody else comes in.
All right, there we go, y'all. Just had to take a phone call real quick. Sorry. All right, Psych2Go. You know Psych2Go got it. So look, check this out. Focus jumps. Check this out, y'all. Y'all gonna like this. That's what you can do with focus.
Doing my job.
Y'all should be able to see
That
it.
jury's my diction crap. You cram it up your ass. The orders were for your protection.
Protection.
I think we can handle one little girl. I sent 2 units.
No, Lieutenant.
They're bringing her down now.
No,
Lieutenant, your men are already dead.
Morpheus, the line was traced, I don't know how.
I know. They cut the hard line. There's no time. You're gonna have to get to another exit.
Are there any agents?
Yes.
God damn it.
You have to focus, Trinity. Phone at Wells and Lake.
Y'all heard it? You got to focus, Trinity. All right, long story short, she made it. They always send me to. So look, it's funny. I gotta pause it right there, and I gotta talk for a second, only because I see that stupid message coming up on my YouTube screen. Look, I went over to the DGTA page, right, to try and share out the live to, to some people that I figured might want to watch it, right? So when I go over to the YouTube page on my phone, it ain't even telling me I'm live. So now we gonna run this up. All right, it's telling me I'm not even live. But they gonna send me that warning saying that we see the movie you playing on your page. You shouldn't be playing that movie, but technically I ain't even live, right?
Stay committed today.
Let's see, hold up. Yeah, there's no live broadcast going out for me from YouTube today, right? But they sending me that message saying, so we gonna rock this. I don't care about y'all sending me that message. Y'all ain't put my signal out anyway, bitch ass niggas. She gonna put that focus. Look, they can't even make it over there. You see what I'm saying? Let's go. And watch the cops, watch the cops, watch the cops.
That's impossible.
Now, you see what you can do with some focus? I wouldn't encourage anybody to go jumping over no buildings. But you see what the cops say. We on that level of what the cops say. That's impossible. Come on, Trey. Do that one. I'm gonna blast you. Get up, Trey.
Get up.
Let's go. See, y'all might not understand, but there's people that do. And she got out.
Oh.
She made it out.
I'm in the mood for
Now.
something sci-fi. What should I watch?
Now, I showed that clip for a reason. I ain't just chilling. But I showed that clip because the premise behind the movie is we like in this altered reality, and she's not really in a city, and she's not really there with those people. She's actually just sitting in a chair and is being programmed into the city, right? And so that's why it's so important for her to focus, because it's technically not real. She's just sitting there. So the more she's focused, the more she can do. That's why she can jump across the building and they can't. That's why he can jump across the building and they can't, because it's just a program. And imagine that you're playing a game. You can't, it's no amount of like muscles you can build. You got to use your mind to be able to hit that move just right. Anybody who play video games know that. All right, there we go. Let's get one more. Just because they said I shouldn't. Hey, this should be fun.
The bullet time effect in The Matrix was groundbreaking for its time. To create the iconic slow-motion scenes, the Wachowskis used around 120 still cameras placed in a circle around the actors. These cameras captured the action from multiple angles simultaneously, which was then combined to give the illusion of motion in slow time. The technique also involved using green screens for backgrounds, wires to hold the actors in position, and careful digital interpolation to ensure smooth movement.
Special effects. All of them that they had at the time. Let's see some people jumping in real time. Nah. Oh, man. Hold up. Let's just watch 2 seconds of this.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters. The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was... Look again. Who's it?
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Let's get off of this. Let's look at some anatomy of the eye. I know I said the eye, but I typed in something else.
أكثر من عامين ونصف والسودان يعاني وضعا إنسانيا كارثيا. نحن حاليا كفريق هيومانيتي موجودين في السودان.
Fume. Fume is an innovative and award-winning device that helps you.
Now we gotta watch another commercial? Yeah, bro, we not watching we not watching your video. We love commercials, but we not. Hey, my mans. Let's see what they got for us.
We will not fear.
All right, hold on, wait. Let's go back real quick.
Tired of foggy brain and low focus? Unleash your inner genius with these simple hand exercises. Exercise 1, fingertip touch. Touch each fingertip to your thumb. 1 by 1, repeat 10 times. Exercise 2, wrist circles. Rotate your wrists in both directions, 10 times each. Exercise 3, flexion. Touch your thumb to each fingertip, then extend it. Repeat 10 times. Do these daily to boost blood flow to your brain, increase focus, and reduce stress. Try it now and feel the difference. Boost your brain power, one hand movement at a time. Tired of foggy brain and low focus? Unleash your...
Hold on, y'all. Y'all get y'all wrist circles and finger touches in. I'm getting mine in. So simple. I feel focused already. We in there. Hey. Yeah. All right. 2 minutes is what we need. We need a 2-minute video, not an hour.
The human mind isn't designed to focus, yet we crave it like oxygen. Every day we chase clarity, but our brains were built for chaos. So how do some people slip into that rare, almost supernatural zone? The kind where time slows down and every thought sharpens like a blade? Welcome to the anatomy of focus, not the boring textbook version. This is the raw, beating story of how your body locks in on a single goal and blocks the world out. But before we go deeper, listen closely. You know, if you scroll down to the comments and drop a suggestion or idea to improve the channel and sub, you could be one of 10 people to win Apple or Google Play gift cards worth $40 each. Magic, it's biology. Your eye $400 grand buy. Now, let's open the mind. Focus isn't magic, it's biology. Your eyes dart less, your breathing slows, even the tiny muscles in your neck tighten to anchor your gaze. Inside your head, millions of neurons form a temporary alliance, a war council, electing one single thought as king and silencing the rest. This is dopamine at work, painting your target with neon urgency. Your prefrontal cortex, that little decision-making powerhouse, take the wheel and says, ignore the noise, lock in, this is what matters. But focus is fragile. It lives on a razor's edge, too little stress, and you drip too much and your mind cracks under pressure. The sweet spot, that's where legends are made. Athletes call it flow, artists call it the zone, neuroscientists call it transient hypofrontality. Your brain actually turning down some of its own chatter to make room for a single blazing signal. And
Hold on. I like what they call it. Transient hypofrontality.
call it flow, artists call it the zone, neuroscientists call it transient hypofrontality. Your brain actually turning down some of its own chatter to make room for a single blazing signal. And here's the twist. You can train it. Small rituals like closing your eyes for 10 seconds before a task, controlling your breathing, or setting a simple, single goal literally sculpt the brain's pathways favor deep focus. Over time, you stop forcing concentration, you start falling into it. Imagine holding a thought so steady, the rest of the world melts into the background noise. That's not just productivity, that's power. The next time you catch your mind wandering, just remember, focus isn't about control, it's about surrender. Surrendering to one idea so completely that everything else fades. This is what the body was meant to do. This is the anatomy of focus.
I could watch that. I could watch that 4, 5, 6, 7 times right there. Hold up. Let me save that. That don't got no likes. Hold on. Look at me in the video. Y'all see me? Look at me.
You know,
all right, hold
strange, up. The human mind.
This don't got no likes and only 3 subscribers. This was fire. Yo, hold up. And no comments. There we go. All right. Let's keep going. That video was fire though. Let's look at I want to look at this real quick. Where else would you get like this information? Not like, but where else would you get this information? You could go search all day, but we take one solid good hour, drop it in, and get on up out of there. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up. Get here. The feel good hormone, man. Bitch, please.
This is dopamine, a fun molecule that you've probably heard of. Now, people always talk about wanting hits of dopamine, but that's not actually how it works. So dopamine is a molecule that motivates us to get things or to avoid things. But we all have a baseline level which travels around our body in our nervous system all the time. So when you achieve something or satisfy a desire, like eat chocolate or have sex or get 100 likes on Instagram, you experience a peak in dopamine, which feels good. But afterwards, you can then experience a temporary dip below the previous baseline, which is why sometimes after achieving something you really wanted, you actually feel a little bit worse. And you also have a readily releasable pool of dopamine, which your body taps into to create these peaks. But if you try and get these peaks too often, like going on Instagram too frequently, then the pool of dopamine doesn't have time to refill. So the peaks aren't as high as they were before, and Instagram no longer makes you feel as good. But the good news is that you can consciously improve your dopamine levels over time by not fixating on rewards and outcomes, but on trying to actually enjoy the process. This is
right, because that's what you get it from. I don't even want to save his video though. Hold on. And I don't. Well, you know what? After school, let's rock. This will take us to the end, y'all.
Being able to build anything.
Because we talked about this before. But in the light of being focused and being aware, I'ma just say this. Work the chemicals that you, when you hear these words and these terms, attach them to the feelings that you get. and start to train yourself more mentally than you do physically, because you'll get those rewards and goals that you're looking for if you seek it through the mental more so than you say, hey, I'm gonna do something physical to get it. Like to my people who smoke all day, you know, maybe you can substitute that smoking with something else physical or something else mental that'll give you that same feeling. You see what I'm saying? The feelings are what we going for every day, but that's just a thought. I don't know. You trying to feel good. I'm trying to feel good. I get it, though. All right, boy, do I get it.
One of the most important findings in the last few years in neuroscience is that while the molecule dopamine is associated with reward, it's more about motivation and craving.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really classic experiment now that people use to demonstrate this. You take two rats, and the rats independently, separate cages, can lever press for food, and they can access food. There's a little bit of dopamine that's released anytime they get some food, so we always thought that food, like many other rewards, like food, sex, warmth when you're cold, cool when you're too warm, is triggering the release of dopamine. But someone had the good idea to deplete dopamine in one of those animals, and then what you find is that the animal without dopamine still enjoys food, still enjoys other pleasures. So dopamine's not really involved in the enjoyment of those pleasures, it's involved in motivation, because if you make the animal have to move just one rat's length, believe it or not, to get to that lever, the animal with dopamine will work to go get that thing.
Go get it.
It will work through some effort to go get the reward. Whereas the animal, or it turns out the human without much dopamine, can still experience pleasure. They can sit on their couch and cram their face with pleasure-inducing calories or what have you, watch pleasure-inducing things on the television, but they have a little motivation to go pursue things that will deliver them pleasure. It's actually what's really driven the forward evolution of our species has been the desire to go seek things beyond the confines of our skin. And when I say the common currency is dopamine, what I mean is the molecule dopamine, when secreted in the brain, makes us pursue things, build things, create things, makes us want new things that we don't currently already have. And so it has a lot of dimensions to it, but rather than think about dopamine as a signal for reward, like a dopamine hit, we classically talk about it, it's more accurate really to think about dopamine as driving motivation and craving to go seek rewards. That's the rat experiment. And it's a way of tabulating where we are in our life. Are we doing well or are we doing poorly? And that happens on very short time scales. Like, do you wake up feeling good? Or do you wake up feeling kind of low? Or on long time scales. If you're halfway through a long degree or you're halfway through your life, how are you doing? How do you gauge that? Well, it has everything to do with how much dopamine you were releasing in the previous days and weeks and years. So you're always comparing it, and all of this is subconscious. But what's cool is that once you make these processes conscious, once you understand a little bit about how dopamine is released and how it changes our perspective and our behavior, then you can actually work with it. And so we go back to this example of the person that's not motivated, that can't get off the couch, that doesn't want to do anything. Well, this is the problem. They are effectively the rat with no dopamine, but they can still achieve some sense of pleasure by consuming excess calories, by consuming social media. And look, I'm not judging, I do this stuff too, right? Scrolling social media. If you've ever scrolled social media and you're like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. It doesn't really feel that good. And I can remember a time where you'd see something that was just so cool, or you'd see something online. I remember this when TED Talks first came out. I was like, this is amazing. These are some, at least some of them are really smart people sharing really cool insights. And then now that there are like a gazillion TED Talks, I remember spending a winter in my office when I was a junior professor, cleaning my office finally, and binging TED Talks in the background, thinking this is a good use of my time. Pretty soon, they all sucked to me. I was like, this isn't good. So what you need to do is stop watching TED Talks for a while, wait, and then they become interesting again. And that's this pain-pleasure balance. And so for people that aren't feeling motivated, the problem is they're not motivated, but they're getting just enough or excess sustenance. So they're getting the little mild hits of opioid, it becomes an opioid system. And if you think about the opioid drugs as opposed to dopaminergic drugs make people rabid for everything. You know, drugs of abuse like cocaine and amphetamine make people incredibly outward directed, right? They hardly notice anything except what they want more of, more. It's bad because those drugs trigger so much dopamine release that they become the reward. It's very circular. Only the drug can give that much dopamine. Nothing they could pursue would give them as much dopamine as the drug itself.
Right.
So there's that, and then there's the kind of opioid-like effects of constantly indulging oneself with social media or with video games or with food or with anything, to the point where it no longer evokes the motivation and craving. And this is really the new evolution of the understanding of dopamine in neuroscience, which is that dopamine itself is not the reward. It's the build-up to the reward. And the reward has more of a kind of opioid bliss-like property, which itself is not bad if it's endogenous, released from within. But when we can just sit there like the rat with no dopamine, gorging ourselves with pleasures, so to speak, what you end up with is somebody that feels really unmotivated, and those pleasures no longer work to tickle those feel-good circuits. And so there's no reason for them to go out and pursue anything. The problem is not pleasures. The problem is that pleasure experienced without prior requirement for pursuit is terrible for us. It's terrible for us as individuals. It's terrible for us as groups. And I have great confidence in the human species to work this out. But we are finding now, and we are going to increasingly find, that those who will be successful, young or old, are going to be those people who can create their own internal buffers. They're going to be able to control their relationship to pleasures.
Right.
Pleasures, and their availability is the problem. If you look at the increase in use of drugs of abuse or prescription medication, which, at least at the first pass, deliver pleasure, pain relief, the whole issue with the opioid crisis, and dopaminergic drugs like Ritalin, Adderall, there sometimes is a clinical need, but tons of people are taking those recreationally now or to study. Huge dopamine increases are what those cause. That is a problem. That's a serious problem, because it creates a cycle where you need more of that specific thing. I always say addiction is a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure.
God, that's such a good definition.
And and I don't like to comment too much on enlightenment, because I don't really know what that is as a neurobiologist, but a good life, we could say, is a progressive expansion of the things that bring you pleasure.
Right.
Even better, is a good life is a progressive expansion of the things that bring you pleasure, and includes pleasure through motivation and hard work. And understanding this pain-pleasure balance, whereby if you experience pain and you can continue to be in that friction and exert effort, the rewards are that much greater when they arrive. And so I think that if you look at any drug of abuse or any situation where somebody isn't motivated or thinks now, they may have clinically diagnosed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but a lot of what people think is ADHD, it turns out, is people just over-consuming dopamine from various sources. And also the context within a TikTok feed is, the context switch is insane. The brain has never seen, first of all, this is the first time in human evolution that we wrote with our thumbs, but that's a pretty benign shift. And then the other shift is, normally you walk from one room to another, or from a field into the trees, or from a hut or a house, or whatever it is. But now you can get 10,000 context switches in that 30 minutes of scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. And so it's all about self-regulation. We are going to select for the people that can self-regulate. And so then people say, well, how do you self-regulate? How do kids self-regulate? Well, this is my hope, and one of the reasons I've gotten excited about public education and teaching neuroscience is that this is a place where knowledge of knowledge actually can allow oneself to when you think, I'm feeling low, I don't feel good, nothing really feels like good. Am I depressed? Maybe, but maybe you've saturated the dopamine circuits. You're now in the pain part of things. What do? Well, you have to stop. You need to replenish dopamine. You need to stop engaging with this behavior, and then your pleasure for it will come back. But you have to constantly control the hinge. It's not just about being back and forth on the seesaw. You have to make sure the hinge doesn't get stuck in pain or in pleasure. Understanding that pain and pleasure are in this really dynamic balance can also help us, which in the following way. Any pain that you feel, the longer day, the less sleep, the kind of agony that things aren't working, that power outlet doesn't work, or the internet is slow, whatever it is, the amount of pleasure that you will eventually experience is directly related, to how much pain you experience.
No way.
So we know this from actually what nowadays would be considered quite barbaric and unethical experiments, where they would give people electrical shocks and they would measure their response, and then they'd say, we're going to increase it, Eventually, they get to the point where a slight shock that was previously very painful actually evokes a sense of pleasure. Now, you couldn't do these experiments anymore. These are not the experiments I do in my lab. These are older experiments. But for instance, and this has been discussed in scientific research papers, giving somebody like a 10-minute ice bath, for instance, or even a 3-minute ice bath, or a 1-minute ice bath is quite painful. But there was a study from University of Prague, European Journal of Physiology, showed that after a painful ice bath stimulus, the amount of dopamine release goes up for 2.5 hours to 250% above baseline. And that's not because the ice bath itself evokes dopamine release. A lot of people think, oh, cold water evokes dopamine release. No, pain evokes dopamine release after the pain is over. Just understanding the more friction and pain
I'm
you
gonna try that.
experience, the greater the dopamine reward you will get later, and that serves as its own
I had been told that.
amplifier of the whole process of pursuing more dopamine. So the keys are to pursue rewards, but understand that the pursuit is actually the reward.
The reward.
If you want to have repeated wins. Then what you realize is your capacity to tap into dopamine as a motivator, not just seeking dopamine rewards, that is infinite.
Yo, so happiness is a journey, not a destination, right? So in conclusion, and as we close up for the day, these talks itself should be triggering, or I believe, well, for me, they trigger that same release that he was talking about in the video, just being fulfilled, having that feeling, that good, really, really good feeling. These videos and these talks that we have, that's a great start to the day for me. Like from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., us just sitting here and we getting this information, we going through it, we sifting, we making our way through. We at episode 238, so that's over 200 hours. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, we're gonna say it's 200 hours of, it is 200 hours of us sitting here and figuring this thing out. All right, I don't think we could all do it independently. I think it's a good thing that we doing it together. So this has been another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. I ain't gonna keep y'all too much longer. I'm gonna close out here for today. Go grab me something to eat, and I will check y'all out tomorrow on Fun Fact Friday. We'll have a little fun tomorrow. Take it easy. You know what I'm saying? So I'll see y'all tomorrow. And of course, this is DGTA TV. Peace.
Today, oranges in warmer regions like Vietnam and Thailand remain green and white.
I got it. Hold on. I gotta see that. I gotta see that somehow. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Because and I guess that would be why it's so significant that the name of it is orange. You see what I'm saying? Like, if it wasn't an orange, then you could say something. But it's an orange. And so it being green contradicts it being an orange. Green, orange, and okay. Green, orange in Mexico. Let's see. Because how do they peel? How Mexico grows lime?